My name is Victoria, and I'm 28 years old. 3 months ago, I was planning the wedding of my dreams. Today, I'm sitting in my home office, looking at bank statements that show a $7 million net worth. The difference between those two moments? One devastating conversation that changed everything. I never thought money would tear my family apart. Growing up, we weren't wealthy, but we had each other, or so I believed. The night before my engagement party, my future in-laws delivered an ultimatum that shattered every illusion I'd held about family, love, and loyalty. They wanted me to sign over my business. All of it. The company I'd built from nothing, working 18-hour days in my tiny apartment. The business that had quietly become worth millions while everyone assumed I was just playing entrepreneur. Sign the papers, Victoria, or there's no wedding, my future mother-in-law said, sliding a legal document across the mahogany dining table. Her voice was calm, matter-of-fact, like she was asking me to pass the salt. I stared at the contract, my hands trembling. Around me sat the people I'd called family for 3 years. My fiancé Marcus remained silent, his eyes fixed on his plate. His father nodded approvingly at his wife. His sister smirked from across the table. None of them knew the truth. None of them understood what they were really asking me to give up. You see, I'd kept my financial success a secret. While they saw a small marketing consultancy run from my spare bedroom, I'd actually built a digital empire. My client roster included Fortune 500 companies. My investment portfolio had exploded beyond my wildest dreams. I owned 3 properties and had enough passive income to retire at 30. But to them, I was just Marcus's girlfriend with a cute little business that brought in maybe $50,000 a year. They thought they were claiming something insignificant. They had no idea they were demanding I hand over my entire future. The silence stretched on as I read the contract terms. They wanted majority ownership. They wanted control of all business decisions. They wanted the right to dissolve the company if it didn't meet their profit expectations. This is just a formality, Marcus's father explained, his tone patronizing. We're bringing you into the family business empire. We need to make sure everyone's assets are properly aligned. Family business empire. I almost laughed. Their restaurant chain was struggling. Their real estate investments were hemorrhaging money. They were asking me to sign over my millions to prop up their failing ventures. Marcus finally looked up from his plate. Victoria, just sign it. It's not that big a deal. We're going to be married anyway. Not that big a deal. Those words hit me like a physical blow. The man I'd planned to spend my life with had just dismissed 3 years of blood, sweat, and sacrifice as insignificant. I stood up slowly, the contract still in my hands. Everyone watched me, expecting compliance, expecting me to smile and sign away everything I'd worked for. Instead, I did something that surprised even myself. I walked to the fireplace and dropped the papers into the flames. The room erupted. Marcus's mother gasped. His father's face turned crimson. Marcus jumped up, shouting about disrespect and family loyalty. But I felt calm for the first time in months. As I watched those papers burn, I realized I'd been living a lie. These people didn't love me. They loved what they thought they could take from me. If you are watching this right now, drop a comment letting me know where you are viewing from. Before I tell you about this life-changing decision, hit like and subscribe to hear more real stories about family loyalty and betrayal that might just change how you see your own relationships. What happened next changed everything. Not just my relationship with Marcus and his family, but my understanding of my own worth. The conversation that followed revealed truths so shocking. I questioned everything I thought I knew about the people closest to me. I'm going to tell you the whole story, about the secrets I discovered, about the family members who showed their true colors, about the devastating betrayal that nearly destroyed me, and about how losing everything I thought I wanted led me to find something infinitely more valuable. Because sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the best thing that ever happened to you. Sometimes you have to lose the wrong people to find the right ones. This is that story. Let me take you back to where it all began. I met Marcus 3 years ago at a business networking event in downtown Chicago. He was charming, successful, and came from what everyone called good family. The Hendersons owned several restaurants and had real estate investments throughout the city. I was 25 then, just starting to see real success with my marketing consultancy. I'd launched the business 2 years earlier from my studio apartment, surviving on ramen noodles and pure determination. My background wasn't glamorous. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, raised by my grandmother after my parents died in a car accident when I was 12. Grandma Rose taught me everything about hard work and perseverance. She worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat, never complaining, always encouraging my dreams. When she passed away during my senior year of college, I inherited her small house and a few $1,000s. I sold everything, moved to Chicago, and bet it all on myself. Marcus seemed impressed by my entrepreneurial spirit. His family welcomed me warmly, or so I thought. His mother, Patricia Henderson, was a refined woman in her early 60s. She ran the family's social calendar and considered herself the matriarch of their mini dynasty. She spoke softly but commanded attention whenever she entered a room. His father, Robert Henderson, was a booming presence who loved to tell stories about building the family business from nothing. He'd immigrate from Ireland in the 70s with empty pockets and big dreams. Now he owned 5 restaurants and several apartment buildings. He treated me like a daughter, asking about my business, offering advice, making me feel truly accepted. Marcus's sister, Diana, was 2 years younger than him and worked as the family's accountant. She was sharp, ambitious, and initially seemed supportive of my relationship with her brother. She'd often ask detailed questions about my business, operations, which I appreciated as genuine interest. There was also Marcus's younger brother, Kevin, who was fresh out of college and working at the restaurants. He was quiet but friendly, always quick with a joke to lighten tense moments. His girlfriend, Sarah, often joined family gatherings. She worked as a teacher and seemed as overwhelmed by the Henderson dynamics as I sometimes felt. For 2 years, I felt like I belonged. Sunday dinners at the Henderson house became my favorite tradition. Patricia would cook elaborate meals while Robert told stories, and Marcus helped in the kitchen. Diana and I would discuss business strategies. Kevin and Sarah would entertain us with stories from their respective jobs. I thought I'd found the family I'd lost as a child. The warmth, the inclusion, the sense of belonging somewhere. Marcus proposed on Christmas Eve during one of these family gatherings, and everyone cheered and cried happy tears. But I was living, with a secret that grew heavier each month. My business wasn't the small consultancy they imagined. I'd stumbled into a niche market that exploded. Within 18 months, I was managing digital marketing campaigns for major corporations. My income jumped from $50,000 to over $1 million annually. I invested wisely, bought properties under my business name, and built a portfolio that most people work their entire lives to achieve. But I didn't tell anyone, not even Marcus. I'd grown up with so little that having money felt surreal, almost frightening. I was afraid it would change how people saw me. Maybe I was also protecting myself. Deep down, some part of me remembered Grandma Rose's warnings about people who might love your money more than they love you. She'd seen too many relationships destroyed by financial inequality, so I maintained the illusion. I lived modestly, drove a practical car, and let everyone assume my business was doing well enough, but nothing spectacular. When the Hendersons made comments about bringing me into their empire, I smiled and nodded, not understanding what they really meant. The engagement party was planned for the following weekend. Patricia had invited over 100 guests, including business associates and family friends. It was meant to be our official introduction to the wider Henderson social circle. But that Thursday night dinner changed everything. The contracts, the ultimatum, the casual way they discussed taking over my life's work. The burning papers were just the beginning. Have you ever had a moment where you suddenly saw people's true faces? Where the masks came off and you realized you'd been living in a fantasy? Share your experience in the comments below. What happened after I burned those contracts revealed just how deep their deception went. After I burned the contracts, the Henderson family dining room became a battlefield. Patricia's composure cracked completely. Her voice rose to a shriek as she called me ungrateful and selfish. Robert's face turned purple as he demanded to know who I thought I was. But Marcus's reaction cut the deepest. He didn't defend me. He didn't ask for an explanation. Instead, he grabbed my arm and hissed, "You just ruined everything." I pulled away from him. Ruined what exactly? By refusing to sign away my business to people who don't even know what it's worth? Diana laughed coldly from across the table. Please, Victoria, your little marketing thing brings in maybe $60,000 a year. We've seen your apartment, your car. Don't act like you're some business mogul. That's when I made my second life-changing decision of the evening. I took out my phone and showed them my business bank statements. The room fell silent as they processed the numbers. $7 million in assets, multiple six-figure client contracts, investment properties worth over $2 million. Their faces shifted from anger to shock to something that looked like hunger. Robert was the first to speak. This is real? Every dollar, I replied, my voice steady despite my racing heart. The business you wanted me to sign over? It's worth more than your entire restaurant chain. Patricia's expression transformed completely. The anger disappeared, replaced by a calculating smile. Well, this changes things significantly. We need to discuss new arrangements. New arrangements, like I was a business acquisition instead of a family member. Marcus stepped closer to me, his demeanor shifting. Victoria, why didn't you tell me? We could have planned better. We could have what? I interrupted. Loved me differently if you'd known I had money? The silence that followed answered my question more clearly than words ever could. Kevin, who'd been quiet throughout the confrontation, finally spoke up. This is messed up. She doesn't owe you guys anything. His brother Marcus spun around. Stay out of this, Kevin. You don't understand business. I understand treating people with respect, Kevin shot back. Sarah nodded beside him, her teacher instincts clearly troubled by the family dynamics. That's when Diana dropped her bombshell. Actually, Kevin, you should probably know something. We've been planning this for months. Ever since Marcus decided to propose, we've been researching Victoria's business. We knew it was worth more than she was letting on. My blood ran cold. What do you mean researching? Diana pulled out a folder from the cabinet behind her. Inside were printed copies of my business registration documents, tax filings that should have been private, photos of my properties, and detailed financial analyses. You hired an investigator, I whispered, the betrayal hitting me like a physical blow. We had to protect the family, Robert said, as if that justified everything. When someone joins the Henderson family, we need to understand all the assets involved. Marcus reached for my hand, but I jerked away. You knew. All of you knew, and you've been lying to me for months. We weren't lying, Patricia said smoothly. We were being strategic. The contract was just our opening position for negotiation. Opening position. I was their fiancé, and they were treating me like a hostile takeover. The room felt like it was spinning. 3 years of Sunday dinners, holiday celebrations, and heart-to-heart conversations. All of it had been fake. They weren't welcoming me into their family. They were calculating how to absorb my assets. Sarah stood up abruptly. I can't listen to this anymore. Kevin, we're leaving. Kevin hesitated, looking between his family and his girlfriend. For a moment, I thought he might stay and support his parents' position. Instead, he shook his head in disgust. Sarah's right. This is wrong on every level. As they walked toward the door, Kevin turned back to me. Victoria, you deserve better than this. Don't let them manipulate you. Patricia's voice turned icy. Kevin, if you walk out that door, you can consider yourself cut off from this family. Good, he replied. I don't want to be part of whatever this is. The front door slammed behind them, leaving me alone with the 3 people who'd just revealed their true nature. If you've ever discovered that people you trusted were secretly plotting against you, let me know in the comments. Your stories help others feel less alone. The worst part? This was just the beginning of their deception. With Kevin and Sarah gone, the mask came off completely. Patricia poured herself a glass of wine and settled back into her chair like we were about to negotiate a business deal. Now that the children have left, she said, her voice dripping, with condescension, we can discuss this properly. Robert opened a briefcase I hadn't noticed before. Inside were revised contracts, already prepared with my real financial information incorporated. They'd planned multiple scenarios based on what their investigation might reveal. These new terms are much more favorable, he said, spreading papers across the table. 60-40 split instead of the original 70-30. We're being very generous considering the circumstances. I stared at him in disbelief. Generous? You want 60% of my life's work. Our life's work, Marcus corrected, finally finding his voice. We're going to be married, Victoria. What's yours is mine, and what's mine is yours. The legal implications hit me immediately. In Illinois, assets acquired during marriage become marital property. Once we married, they could claim half of everything anyway. But they wanted more. They wanted control before the wedding even happened. Diana slid another document toward me. This is a prenuptial agreement that protects both parties. Very standard for high net worth marriages. I scanned the prenup quickly. It was anything but standard. According to these terms, all business assets would be managed by Henderson Family Holdings. Any major financial decisions would require approval from the family board. If the marriage ended, I would keep only 20% of the business I'd built. You're trying to steal my entire future, I said, my voice barely controlled. We're trying to protect the family, Patricia replied. You have to understand, Victoria. Money changes people. We've seen it happen before. Young women come into wealth and become reckless, irresponsible. They make emotional decisions that destroy everything. The patronizing tone was unbearable. They were treating me like a child who couldn't be trusted with her own success. Marcus leaned forward, his expression earnest. Victoria, I love you. But my family has experience managing wealth. Your business is impressive, but it's still small scale. Under Henderson management, we could grow it into something truly significant. It's already significant, I snapped. It's worth $7 million. How much is your restaurant chain worth? The silence told me everything I needed to know. Their empire was worth less than my supposedly insignificant business. Robert cleared his throat uncomfortably. The restaurant business has been challenging lately. The real estate market has been volatile. We've had some temporary setbacks. Temporary setbacks. They were failing and they saw my money as their salvation. "How much debt are you in?" I asked directly. Diana's professional composure cracked slightly. "That's not relevant to this discussion." "It's completely relevant," I shot back. "You want to merge my profitable business with your failing ventures. I want to know exactly what I'd be taking on." Marcus stood up abruptly. "This isn't about money, Victoria. It's about trust. It's about family. If you can't trust us with your business, how can I trust you with our marriage?" The manipulation was so blatant it took my breath away. They were turning my refusal to be robbed into a question of my love and commitment. That's when I noticed something that changed everything. Diana's laptop was open on the side table, and I could see an email thread in her inbox. The subject line read, "Henderson Holdings, creditor meeting tomorrow." They weren't just struggling. They were on the verge of bankruptcy. The family meeting tomorrow wasn't about celebration or planning. It was about desperate financial survival. "You're broke," I said, the pieces finally clicking together. "All of you. This whole thing is because you're about to lose everything." Patricia's wine glass trembled in her hand. Robert's face lost all color. Marcus opened his mouth to deny it, but Diana spoke first. "We're not broke," she said carefully. "We're experiencing liquidity challenges that require creative solutions." Creative solutions? Like marrying their son to a secret millionaire and stealing her business. I stood up, my decision crystallizing. The wedding is off. The room exploded again, but this time I didn't stay to listen. I walked to the front door, grabbing my coat from the closet. Marcus followed me, grabbing my arm. "Victoria, please, we can work this out. We can modify the terms." I turned to face him one last time. "There are no terms, Marcus. There's no negotiation. There's no wedding. It's over." Have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved because they showed you who they really were? Drop a like if you understand how painful but necessary that choice can be. I drove home that night in complete shock. My hands shook so badly, I had to pull over twice. Everything I'd believed about my life had crumbled in a single evening. The family I'd thought I'd joined was a lie. The man I'd planned to marry was a stranger. The next morning brought a barrage of texts and calls. Marcus alternated between apologies and accusations. Patricia left voicemails about working things, out for everyone's benefit. Diana sent legal documents about protecting mutual interests. I turned off my phone and spent the day in my apartment, trying to process what had happened. By evening, I'd made several decisions that would change my life completely. First, I called my lawyer and initiated a comprehensive asset protection strategy. Every business account, every property, every investment was restructured to ensure complete legal separation from any potential Henderson claims. Second, I hired my own investigator to research the Henderson family finances. What I discovered was worse than I'd imagined. They were 3 months behind on restaurant loan payments. Their real estate portfolio was over-leveraged and hemorrhaging money. They owed over $2 million to various creditors. The engagement party that weekend became a spectacle of awkwardness. I didn't attend, obviously, but Kevin called me afterward to describe the scene. Marcus had to explain to over 100 guests why his fiancée wasn't there. The Hendersons spun a story about postponing due to scheduling conflicts, but their social circle wasn't fooled. Within a month, their financial situation became public. The local business journal ran a story about Henderson Holdings filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Several of their restaurants closed permanently. The real estate investments were liquidated at massive losses. Marcus tried to contact me repeatedly during this period. His messages evolved from anger to desperation to what sounded like genuine remorse. But I'd learned something crucial about myself during those dark weeks. I was stronger than I'd ever imagined. 6 months after that terrible dinner, Kevin and Sarah got engaged. They asked me to be their wedding planner, which felt like beautiful irony. Kevin had been cut off from the family money, but he didn't seem to mind. He'd found work at a marketing firm and was building his own life with Sarah's support. Thank you, Kevin told me over coffee one afternoon. Watching you walk away from Marcus gave me permission to walk away from all their toxic expectations. Kevin and Sarah's wedding was everything mine with Marcus would never have been. Simple, genuine, focused on love instead of business arrangements. They exchanged vows they'd written themselves. Their reception was in Sarah's parents' backyard. Everyone there wanted to be there. Meanwhile, my business continued thriving. Without the distraction of Henderson family drama, I expanded into new markets and launched a consulting division. My net worth grew to over $10 million. I bought a beautiful house in Lincoln Park and finally allowed myself to enjoy the success I'd worked so hard to achieve. 1 year after burning those contracts, I was featured on the cover of Chicago Business Magazine as one of the city's entrepreneurs to watch. The article detailed my company's growth and my philanthropic work with programs that helped young women start their own businesses. Marcus saw the magazine. He called me that evening, his voice subdued and different from the man I'd once known. "Victoria, I saw the article. Congratulations. You deserve all the recognition." "Thank you," I replied carefully. "I need you to know something," he continued. "I've been in therapy since our engagement ended. I'm starting to understand how wrong we were, how wrong I was." I appreciated his honesty, but it was too late for apologies to change anything fundamental. "I'm glad you're getting help, Marcus. I really am. But that chapter of my life is closed." "I know," he said quietly. "I just wanted you to know that losing you taught me something important about love. Real love doesn't come with contracts." After we hung up, I sat in my home office looking out at the city lights. I thought about Grandma Rose, who'd always told me to trust my instincts. I thought about the scared young woman who'd driven away from the Henderson house a year ago. That woman had made the hardest decision of her life. Tonight, I could finally say with complete certainty that it was also the best decision she'd ever made. If you've ever had to choose between love and self-respect, share your story below. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is love yourself enough to walk away. Today, I'm sitting in my office overlooking Lake Michigan, preparing to share this story with all of you. It's been 18 months since that night at the Henderson dinner table, and my life has transformed in ways I never could have imagined. My business now employs 15 people and generates over $3 million annually. We've expanded into 3 different cities and are planning international operations. But more importantly, I've learned to build my life around people who value me for who I am, not what I can provide. The most surprising development came 6 months ago when Kevin called with unexpected news. After the Henderson bankruptcy, Patricia and Robert divorced. The financial stress had revealed cracks in their marriage that went far deeper than money. Patricia moved to Arizona to live with her sister. Robert took a job managing someone else's restaurant for the first time in 30 years. Dad asked, "Me to tell you something," Kevin said during our call. "He said you were the smartest person in that room, and he's sorry it took losing everything for him to see it." I felt no satisfaction in their downfall. If anything, it made me sad. They'd had a chance to gain a daughter and chose to see a business opportunity instead. Marcus has continued reaching out occasionally, usually around holidays or anniversaries that once meant something to us. His messages are different now. Thoughtful, reflective, free of the manipulation that once characterized our relationship. He's working as a manager at a corporate restaurant chain and seems to be genuinely trying to rebuild his character. But perhaps the most meaningful relationship to emerge from this experience has been my friendship with Sarah. She and Kevin married 8 months ago in that beautiful backyard ceremony. Sarah has become the sister I never had, someone who understands the importance of authentic relationships built on mutual respect. "You showed me what it looks like to value yourself," she told me recently. "Before I met you, I thought love meant accepting whatever someone was willing to give you. You taught me that real love means being worthy of someone's best effort." That perspective has guided every relationship decision I've made since leaving Marcus. I'm currently dating someone wonderful, a fellow entrepreneur named David who knew about my financial success from our first conversation. There are no secrets, no hidden agendas, no families scheming behind anyone's back. Just two people building something together based on honesty and shared values. But this story isn't really about finding new love or even about money. It's about discovering your own worth and refusing to accept less than you deserve. It's about recognizing that sometimes the people who claim to love you are actually the ones holding you back from becoming your best self. I think about that scared 28-year-old woman who burned those contracts, not knowing if she was making the right choice. She couldn't have imagined that walking away from her biggest mistake would lead her toward her greatest opportunities. The lesson isn't that money changes everything, though it certainly reveals people's true priorities. The real lesson is that you teach people how to treat you by what you're willing to accept. When you accept manipulation, dishonesty, and disrespect, you're telling people that's all you think you deserve. I deserved better than Marcus and his family's schemes. You deserve better than anyone who makes you feel like your dreams, your success, or your boundaries are negotiable. To everyone watching this, I want you to ask yourself some honest questions. Are there people in your life who only support you when it benefits them? Are there relationships where you're always the one making sacrifices? Are there family members or partners who treat your achievements as their property? If you answered yes to any of those questions, you have some decisions to make. They won't be easy decisions. They might be the hardest decisions you ever make. But choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's necessary. I started this video by telling you about the worst night of my life. I'm ending it by telling you it was actually the beginning of my best life. Drop a comment below and tell me about a time you had to choose between keeping the peace and protecting yourself. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real stories about family, relationships, and finding the courage to build the life you actually want. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear that they're worth more than they're settling for. Remember, sometimes losing the wrong people is the same thing as finding yourself. Until next time, choose yourself. You're worth it.